Hi, welcome to another Wicked Politics. I'm Adam Bierman talking to Bob Carson. Bob is joining us in his car. Bob, looking forward to this. Before I continue, and you can also tell how people can listen to you. Please, if you like what you listening to today on Wicked Politics, please check me out on Breathing with Bierman, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, mostly on YouTube. Who knows where else we're going to be? What about you, Bob?
Thank you. Bob Carson, MMA, Facebook, Instagram.com/Bob Carson MMA. And a few of our episodes are up on my YouTube channel with that same handle as well. We are working on trying to get this on Spotify and other streaming platforms. So stay tuned for that.
I'm also hopefully I can figure out when after I record this. It's supposed to be pretty easy. It's supposed to the recording is supposed to default to my MacBook and become an MP4. So bear with me. Hopefully I'll get it to you tomorrow or Sunday. I'm pretty busy. Well, on a side note, you might have a new job. You have a new job coming up.
Yeah, I'm working on a few different things. A federal job, federal position, actually. One federal position that I just got some bad news on that today. But I'm appealing something, so that's still in the works. And also a good law enforcement county position as well. So
Mhm.
keep your fingers crossed. We all need to work. We all need to make money. I'm doing pretty well with my self-employment, so I'm not that bad financially, but it would help to get a good, steady paying, a good old government job, as they say.
I guess with the pension and healthcare would be nice. As I know, you're talking from your car, but thank you for taking the
Yes.
time. Why don't you start off with some of the things you want to talk about?
Yeah.
What do you?
Well, there's a lot to talk about. You have I know we didn't discuss this prior, but you have a lot of hysteria now regarding the border, and this murder that took place. I don't recall where, but the border debate now, an illegal immigrant debate, is kind of rearing its head now. You've got Ukraine, which I think we could be seeing a turning point. You've got gas prices, so I guess we'll start with something that you want to talk about, the war in Ukraine. Right now, the longer that this goes, obviously it favors Putin. I haven't seen too much resistance to our aiding of Ukraine. The funds that we've sent here. There's a couple of radio hosts that talk radio hosts that are in favor of Putin and think that this is all a scam. But for the most part, I think the American public supports the United States efforts to aid and fund Ukraine and back Ukraine against Putin. But something interesting happened this week. A couple of different things. Number one, the Wagner Group. This is the group of mercenaries that Putin has been using to fight Ukraine and to further invade Ukraine. They have admitted that they're going to be withdrawing their troops on May 10th because of ammunition shortages. We're also seeing reports of major casualties from Russia, from the Wagner Group. You've got one U.S. National Council spokesman saying that there's been 20,000 Russian soldiers have been killed, another 80,000 wounded. The fact that the Wagner Group is thinking about pulling out could be an indication that Putin and Russia is losing steam. You also had this alleged assassination attempt over Russia, over close personal quarters of Vladimir Putin. There's two schools of thought of that. These two drones were taken out without doing any damage to the Kremlin. But there's one school of thought that this was sort of like a red flag operation, Russia, to further the cause and further escalate Russia's efforts in Ukraine. And then there's another school of thought that this is part of the counteroffensive of Zelensky and Ukraine, whatnot. I tend to think that this wasn't a serious assassination attempt on Putin, but these are interesting developments in the war in Ukraine, and could be an indication of the tide turning. We'll see in upcoming months.
Oh, where do I start with all you said? One thing I think, I mean, from what I understand, one after I do applaud President Biden. He's done an excellent job keeping the NATO alliance together, keeping China out of it. I think NATO, one reason, besides being democratic and having more cultural, political, social allegiance to the US, there's no upside for a Russian victory. They don't want Russia by their borders. They don't want to reward Putin's ham-fisted aggression, which is causing a lot of pain, of course. Also, he's kept China out. And again, I've said before, I think China has to really, really watch their hand. They still have a sagging economy. They need exports. They need investment. They need Europe. They need the United States. And also, we do have them encircled, I think, in a slow motion Cold War. We have their sea lanes encircled. We don't want them to get access to advanced chips and everything. So right now, yeah, things looking good. What I do understand, what I want to see Biden do is give more advanced weapons that can hit the supply lines of Russia, um, closer to Russia, and disrupt their supply lines and really paralyze their any type of attacking force they can have. Right now, I think the Wagner Group and everything else, those people just want to stay alive. I mean, they're just losing so many people. This war of attrition, hopefully we can end, and with with the Ukraine getting weapons that can hit Russian supply lines and really just bleed them dry, and then Putin's trying to find some way to get out of this. That's what, and the offensive going too. I mean, the Ukrainians won't give up. They're fighting on their own land. So, and as far as the Kremlin thing, I mean, that's what they do. I think it's a black flag operation trying to get
Yeah,
Russian
yeah,
nationalism going. We'll see. We'll see. Right, but we'll see with the spring
yeah. I
exchange.
I, I agree. I agree. This is one area where I think the Biden administration has been steady in their support of Ukraine and Zelensky, and sort of this, some of the political in the beginning of this, some of the political kind of fervor directed toward the Biden administration, as far as Hunter Biden and his ties to Ukraine, Burisma, sort of quieted down. It's not much of a factor anymore, which I think is good for politically for the Biden administration. We'll see. But there is a school of thought that there could be an escalation. That's what everybody's worried about on the part of Putin. Some sort of a weapon that would violate international law, some sort of nuclear weapon, God forbid, or some other
I think he'd be
escalation.
crazy. I mean, it's hard to predict it, and I'm sure he has a
Yeah,
myopic, group of team of. He doesn't really have a team of rivals, but I don't think he'd go
yeah,
that far. I just don't see anything to gain. I don't think he's that crazy, and I think again he doesn't.
yeah. He would. Yeah.
Yeah, I
Go
mean,
ahead. I'm sorry.
he screwed up here with again being an autocrat and having control over the media and people, and you have the army on your side. For now, he can keep this war going, but it must be deeply unpopular after a while. At least when people keep dying. I mean, a lot of people are dying.
Yeah,
We cannot let Russia win, though, and I just don't think the
yeah,
Biden administration will let that happen. And also, Ukraine's been a wake up call, though. I think it's been a major shock. In the sense that we didn't, we thought maybe this would be over for a while. European war, an aggressor like Russia, it affected supply chains. It caused inflation, which caused interest rates to go up. It's a wake up call that things, again, we can never be complacent, especially when you have, autocrats like a Putin, in my opinion.
yeah. Well said. Uh, yeah. Let's move on here. Let's go with something that you want to talk about. We'll sort of go tit for tat here.
Okay, well, I guess looking at the election from I guess a more of a Biden thing, I think right now, I mean, anything can happen, but right now, I think what Biden's trying to do, I think one thing he has going, one of his preambles to get reelected is doing what Trump did in 2016, key electoral states, which are battlegrounds: Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Michigan, Illinois, even Ohio, which turned red, and get those swing voters, those old Reagan Democrats, labor, independents, white women who were always a big swing vote in the past two elections, and make sure at the end of the day, in November, they'll vote for him. And so he's playing on things like Build Back Better, hopefully creating jobs, things like prescription prices and health issues. Also, abortion is a big issue. And I think that's one of his major strategies, I think. And it could work. I mean, that's how you want to win things. That's what I think Trump did very well in 2016. At the same time, maybe Ukraine, I don't think Americans are that forward thinking. Mark Twain once said, we have war so Americans can learn about geography. But I think they do. I think a lot of Americans do have a sinister feeling about Russia and this kind of country with this kind of leader getting close to European borders. And that right now he's done a pretty good job stopping that without sacrificing U.S. troops. It bodes pretty well. Your thoughts on anything else in
Yeah,
Trump?
I think it. Yeah, I have a lot of thoughts on this actually. I think as it stands today, as we've been talking about since we started this podcast, Biden is not as weak, is not in as bad of a position for reelection as some would suggest on the right wing. I remember, a while back, people were predicting Biden's not going to run and Democrats aren't going to allow him to run. Well, there's no indication that's the case now. Biden has been steady, inactive, careful, carefully crafted, whatnot, and sort of the external events here are going to play an impact. But right now, as it stands right now, May 5th, there's nobody else on the Democratic field that's really, I think, at this point. Again, political winds change, as we talked about, and
Quickly, they
there's a bunch
can.
of things that could change here that I want to talk about. Number one is Hunter Biden. Hunter Biden is very close to being indicted. He's been investigated by the Department of Justice for 5 years. He's going to be indicted by all counts for tax evasion and for lying on a gun permit. The tax evasion could be something that could affect his father, because you've got James Comer and the Republicans who are going to investigate Biden, are making the bribery, making some serious allegations against Biden. And if they turn out to be true,
How about Joe Biden?
President Biden, Joe Biden, President Biden will be indicted, and that could potentially end his bid for reelection.
What
Number
what
two,
did
the
he
second
do?
thing on
Well,
Trump.
for clarity, what did he do? What he helped Biden? He helped his son evade taxes or collusion in Ukraine? What?
No, well, so if they get some hold of Biden's Hunter Biden's tax records and finances, and look at whether or not President Biden received money from China, which he denied, or these foreign agents, whatnot. And there's a lot of other issues. The Republicans have control of the House, have a House Oversight Committee. So there are a lot of potential issues and accusations that if one of them goes through, Biden could find himself indicted, and he could even be impeached. I'm saying that that's something that could change the political, election in 2024, the presidential election. The next thing I think that's important on the Republican side is Trump. President Trump is, with this Dominion case and this Dominion settlement. Fox News is really hurting now. You've got the Fox News apparently that is not in favor of President or former President Trump. Trump is doing a town hall with CNN, which is sort of like a dig to Fox News. Fox News wants DeSantis to win, so there's not the unanimity amongst Republican voters, although Trump is still the front runner, as was the case, 6 months ago, a year ago, or 2 years ago. That could bode well for the Biden administration. So there's all these different things that are developing that could affect the race, and could really throw things on its head as we go forward.
But really, for the primary again, unless it changes, Trump has that steady 25 to 30% block that's always going to vote for him no matter what, for whatever reasons. So I can see him maybe cruising to a primary victory, probably making Biden quite happy. Because again, I mean, I'll call him Gangster Trump again. The man was for this insurrection. I was quite. I mean, it's really not new what he does, but when Waco, Texas, when Trump kicked off his campaign, he had on tape the national anthem song. It turned out by Pride Boys in jail. I mean, these guys attack federal police and Capitol Police. I mean, I thought the Republicans were law and order. I mean, for the boys in the blue, it's so, the whole thing's kind of repellent. And again, he's for the insurrection. He's against climate catastrophe. The Georgia election, he, like Biden, took documents home, but Trump, as far as I know, actively tried to obstruct any investigation. He backed Putin over the CIA. He asked if Russia and China would he welcome their interference in the election to aid him. He said yes. I mean, we can't lie. I mean, I think that's why I think at the end of the day, and that's why the midterms turned out the way they did, among other reasons, that a lot of people just see this guy is against the pillars of our democracy, and I just hope. But yeah, I don't know much about that Biden China thing. I have to admit, when I hear that, do I think it's some kind of right wing conspiracy? But I haven't followed it. I don't. Is Biden that dumb? Who knows? I mean, Hunter Biden is flawed. He's fucked. He's effed up. I mean, but is it enough to taint his father? Did his father get involved in something? I don't know.
Well, the good thing that President Biden did is President Biden, as far as I know, released all his tax records. So there is that, but the Bidens are going to get an investigation, and the right wing. I know the right wing is just as vicious, if not more vicious, when they circle their wagons as the Democrats when they went after Clinton, when they went after Obama. If there is a there, if there's even close to a there, it's going to be a problem for the Democrats. And all I'm saying is that it's still wide open. Trump has been, there's still a lot of things pending on Trump. This rape case in New York, and you've got the Alvin Bragg indictment. You've got the Georgia voting scandal. You've got a
Yeah, I
lot
mean,
of
I knew what
things.
I heard. He
But I
said,
think
"Get
Trump is pretty much.
he said, get me 13,000
But
votes." I get, yeah.
you can't make the argument. I think that Trump hasn't been investigated and hasn't been vetted. And some people make the argument because he's been indicted, because he's been vetted so much that it's a political advantage for him because there's really nothing that they can throw at him that he hasn't seen before. But things change, like I said. Any number of different things could change, and we could have an indictment on him, or we could have an indictment on President Biden, and that sends everything into a tailspin. So that's going to be interesting to see what happens
I think
for
though the
the
American
2024
people,
election.
even though it's hard to indict some, it's hard to, especially sitting president now or not sitting president, and it is political. I think American people do, no matter what, do believe he was part of the insurrection. I think it's pretty much it's. Oh, I don't want that phone to ring.
Yeah.
1 second. I think that the American people do enough do believe that he's done these things. Can they, again, their level of proof, finding someone guilty is a little bit harder in this country, especially when it gets political with a president and now former president. And I think he's been tainted enough, and I think again it showed up in the midterms, and I think it would show up right now if it was Biden versus Trump again in 2024. I think a lot of people are sick with it. I think there's a quiet majority, enough who will vote, who are sick of this man, and they don't like him. They don't like what he's done. Well, we'll have to
Well,
see. But
yeah, I definitely think that Trump has his problems with appealing to every single voting demographic. There's no question about that. And so, again, the future's wide open.
it should be exciting, though. What about you? Would you support any candidate right now? Would you give money,
Um,
time,
I,
effort?
I haven't seen any. I mean, I've never really thrown. I mean, I used to when I was more radical. I supported the Obama. I supported Bernie Sanders at one point. As of right now, I don't really see myself supporting anybody at this point. I don't see any strong independent candidate. I do support Trump on some pop. If you held a gun up to my head, I'd probably support Trump over Biden, just on a few policies, and one of which is gas prices and energy prices. I think that those have been key issues. I mean, last year at this time, May 5th, we were paying $5.05 a gallon. Okay. And that has gone down. Now the average is, I believe, $3.50. By June, it's going to be $3.50, which is considered low going into the summertime. But here's the thing: is gas prices? Is this the new normal? Because say what you want about President Trump, gas prices were very low under President Trump. I don't think Biden has handled energy, his energy policies in the energy industry efficiently. I think he's been beholden to many extremists, and as a result of that, that has driven up the cost of energy in this country. I think that's a problem. And this right now, gas prices are still high, but if they spike, it could be another political liability for the Democrats. And all people remember is, listen, gas prices were low under President Trump, and that's not an accident. That's not merely
But he's saying it was
a
all Trump.
coincidence.
There's many variables, price, demand, future prices. I mean, right now, I mean, he's gonna Biden's allowing drilling in Alaska, but even if that goes through, which it looks like it was going to now, you wouldn't see any results in the pump for a while. And then again, the control, sweet crude from Saudi Arabia, gas from Venezuela, again, and then also supply chain disruptions. Not all of that is on any president. What specifically, one or two things could have Biden done better to get the gas prices
Well,
lower?
he waged war. He said he wanted to put the oil companies out of business. That was one of the first things he said. The oil companies react. They react because they worry that they're going to go out of business, so they're going to withhold supply.
He said that
He
out of business,
halted.
really? He said out of
Yeah,
business,
absolutely.
really? Okay.
Absolutely. He said it multiple times, and then he stopped drilling. He stopped Anwar. And he tapped into our strategic reserves, which it really hasn't done anything. He's halted production. He's halted drilling. He's talked about alternative energy and supported alternative energy initiatives, which are not creating, and most of all, inflation. Inflation has really driven up the price of oil and gas and whatnot, which is something that didn't exist during the Trump administration. So I think all these things, if you factor in all these things, we're still paying too much for a gallon of gas at the pump. We don't need to be. And right now, the Biden administration, I think, has to at least, I don't know, I mean, reverse course, or maybe do something. We do have the oil, we do have the resources here in America to be energy inefficient. There's been a school of thought that when Trump was in office, we were energy independent. We were the net exporter of
Mhm.
oil and gas. Now we're right back to being a huge importer of oil and gas. We're relying on countries like Saudi Arabia, Venezuela, and whatnot, countries that don't have
Well,
our
let me
best interest
interrupt you. Well, you say
at heart.
that I know there's something called climate catastrophe, and I'm not saying you're mitigating that. Do you think he went too quickly? Admittedly, one thing everyone has the dream, and I think eventually it's going to happen of electric cars and other things, sustainable energy. But is it going too fast? Things happen, progress it happens in fits and
Yeah,
starts, and also politically, it's not like you were saying. Whatever politically, he gets blamed no matter what. So you're not going to have a
yeah,
definitive answer or resolution, and you got to walk a tight wire and everything. I think there's climate catastrophe. I don't even think we're going to stop it. We have to just learn how to live with it. And at the same time, I would like to see direction, which he has at least talked about and hopefully done right. Build back better, sustainable, clean energy and everything. But yes, it's going to cost more. I think in the long, it's going to go to the consumer, and that could be politically deadly in the short term.
yeah. And you're right. There may come a day where our economy is powered on solar, or powered on wind, or electric cars are more efficient
Cold fusion
than
or something.
gas cars.
A hot.
Exactly, but that day is decades and decades and decades away. And one thing about the left that I've seen to criticize over the last couple of years is that they try to accelerate change and not look for they want agreement, not non inclusion, and that exists with energy policy, exists with everything. Is that, listen? Nobody wants a dirty planet. Nobody wants to pollute, even the oil companies. And we extract oil more efficiently than any other country. We have the cleanest cities now in decades. Nobody wants to pollute our rivers. Nobody wants, animals, whales to die, whatnot. And so the question is, how do we have a more efficient energy market without hurting our economy, without hurting consumers, guys like me who use their car as their living, rather than shoving an economic, or shoving a green new deal down everybody's throats, and banning this and banning that, and telling you what you can and can't do, as if that's going to somehow lower energy costs and be more efficient for the future. I don't think that's the way to go. And I think Biden has some people in his party that he's very close to, that don't want to compromise it, that want agreement, not non-inclusion, that want to destroy the oil companies, and put them out of business, and make everybody drive electric cars by 20
Mhm.
to 30, whatever it is. I don't think that's the right approach.
Yeah, but one thing, not that the oil companies have to be watched though. They're. I know some people work for mobile and everything else. They have their own
Oh, I'm not a fan
agenda.
of the oil companies.
Yeah,
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 I
yeah,
mean,
no.
look,
But
yeah,
no, I agree. And in some
yeah,
reasons, things are cleaner because people have to force it. I think oil companies will eventually come over to when it's profitable for them. But I agree with you. This is unfortunately we're democracy, and we have a representative type system that's made to be inefficient. And you've got to reach some kind of consensus and not have perfect be the enemy of getting something done. At the same time, I want oil company. I think there has to be some kind of if we can do it, oil companies have to pay for some of climate damage. It shouldn't go to consumers. It just shouldn't go to people.
yeah,
We shouldn't be left holding the bag and stuff from what's it called? We have toxic sites in New Jersey to oil spills in California to seepage in the Amazon forest. I think they should help pay for, and they make big enough
yeah.
profits.
The oil companies that the externalities. I remember some make the argument that really we're paying $10, $15 a gallon of gas when you factor in all the externalities and whatnot. And that's a debate that's a debate we can have the subsidies
Another
that go
time,
to the oil company, whatnot. But look, again, we need a better course, and we need to lower gas prices and have an all the above approach, and not a dictatorial approach of banning this and banning that and you
mm-hmm.
know
But some
uh,
people have to be more legislated or coerced to do the right thing. But I agree with you. And we still have millions of cars out there, and people
yeah,
and gas and energy prices, cars and everything. It affects our economy. It affects political wins. It affects pain in people's pocketbooks, like yourself. So it has to be
yep,
seen always. And unfortunately, when you say clean energy to some people, they see more money coming out of their pocket, and also they see someone like you, having to drive to work or make a living by driving, their livelihood really being directly affected, and that has to be factored
yeah,
in and spoken to. And I think a lot of people,
yeah,
that's what it comes to. Like, the people, it might sound corny or I might sound Pollyannish, but people really believe you're trying, and they know it's not going to be perfect. That's what
yeah,
I think Obama had, a Clinton, Reagan, whether you agree with these people or not. At least that's what people felt, that they're listening at least and understand that. And I think that's what Biden
yep,
had. Hopefully, we'll see. Because again, I want Biden, but Biden to win in 2024. I think if Trump wins, it'll be a very vindictive, you know, um, come to Jesus, his Jesus moment for a lot of people. And God, he'd pardon everybody. That's my feeling there.
mm.
But you're right. But I mean, what do you do? Like, tell the people you make your living right now doing what? Driving what? Where?
I'm doing DoorDash, Uber, Instacart, and DoorDash, Uber, Instacart, and yeah, that's it. And I did some of the passenger rides, and I make good money. I mean, but that's interesting. I work my what off. I work 10, 12 hours a day. I sometimes I can make really, really, really good money for myself, a single guy. But the idea of, like, if you look at what the Democrats are doing in New York City, a carbon tax. You want to tax me? You want to put a meter on my car and find out how many miles I'm driving, and how much gas I'm using, how long I'm idling my car. This is where the Democrats draw resentment, from average people like myself. Because what I'm doing, I look at myself as an asset to the economy. I'm self-employed. I'm delivering goods and services to people that need them. This is not going away. I don't think the gig economy is going away anytime soon. If anything, it's expanding because COVID has forced people to be home and want their groceries. That people have been more lazy, arguably, over the last several years, and it runs in my favor. And I know a lot of people like myself who have college degrees, multiple college degrees, that are doing this. And so what you want to come after me? You want to look at my odometer and tax me, and as if I'm not paying enough tax, tolls, state and local taxes. This is why I don't like the environmentalists, and this is what I see
Mhm.
is just aggression and stifling, individualism out there, like people like myself. Again, I don't want. I inhabit the same earth that you do. We all inhabit the same air and water. Nobody wants to pollute, but it's some of these environmentalists and these these radicalists, they and I've known several of them. They're not up for debate. It's my way or the highway.
Mhm.
It's dictatorial. It's scary, and I think it's a big threat to our economy and us going forward.
Would a carbon tax really, how badly would it affect your income?
Well, from my understanding, it would cost. They would want to charge you, I think, an extra $20 or $30 for going into New York City. It would be devastating to me because the tolls are already New Jersey. The tolls are already ridiculous.
Mhm.
Murphy has raised the tolls dramatically. In New York City, the tolls are really really high now compared to what they were 10, 15 years ago. Whatnot. Tolls are the enemy to me. Tolls, gas prices, all this stuff, it's going to be passed on to the consumer. That's why I was talking about inflation. That cost of inflation always gets passed to the consumer, and how the administration deals with oil companies determines this, and energy producing companies determines or factors into inflation and whatnot. I mean, even when George W. Bush was in office, 9/11, when 9/11 happened, the gas prices were 99 cents.
Mhm.
I mean, Republicans have more of an alliance with the oil companies, and I think that it kind of right now our economy is primarily powered through oil, through gas. We can't ignore that. So we have to be mindful of that and have I think a moderate approach to alternative energy.
Yeah, has ridership gone down though? I mean, cars going into New York, since I mean these tolls have gone up, and New Jersey Transit's going to have to go up though too, and everything else. I mean, has it gone down? Or people just pay it, bear the brunt, and drive anyway? Because I know Americans love their cars.
That's a good question, Adam. I would be anxious to see the data on that, whether or not ridership in the city has gone down. I mean, I think the subways have gone down, because of the crime. Although crime is kind of stabilized in New York City, but still, it's pretty bad. But that is an interesting question. I don't know. I'd be interested to see the answer to that. Are less people going to the city? Are less people? It doesn't seem like less people are driving in New Jersey. Seems like more people are driving in
Yeah,
New
I
Jersey.
just know Princeton, where I live, over 120,000 cars go through Princeton every day, and it just continues.
Yeah,
It's hard. We have a love affair with our cars, and we're not like Europe where they have a top-down, subsidies of trains and everything. They have that VAT and everything. I think it's
yeah,
hard to break that habit, and people have to feel that public transportation is reliable, consistent, and happening. I mean, in the Northeast, I mean, the train's pretty good, but New Jersey Transit facing a lot of issues. They don't have dedicated funding. They have substandard cars. They need a lot of repairs. It's hard. Also, I think what we have now, that's the problem with home rule. In one sense, you could say it is, because you have state, local, federal, you have the EPA, you have OSHA. It's really hard to get things done, and one
yeah.
person can do it that works, and it's a problem. I mean, I would be willing to sacrifice drive, even though I like driving and everything, if I could have a reliable place to get to work and everything. But New Jersey's not geared up like that. There's only you have to live in a city, and the traffic's gotten worse. I mean, we have a mall here called the Ridge Mall, and it's very difficult to
Yeah,
take a
yeah,
bus to go 5 miles. It can take 2 hours to get to the mall and then to
yeah,
Trenton, depending on traffic. Well, we only got about 4 minutes left. Do you have any predictions? Anything else you want to talk about? We didn't get to everything else, but that's why we have
yeah. Real
another
quick,
show.
I want to talk about real quickly this subway attack. This guy Jordan Neely. I don't know if you heard about it. He was a subway performer in New York City. Had mental issues. Was mentally disturbed. Was arrested 40 plus times. He was choked out and killed by a 24-year-old white Marine. Choked 15 minutes. Alvin Bragg. They released him without any charges, but now there's a lot of political uprising now, and I depending upon how this goes, this could be the next George Floyd case here. It was horrible, and this is another debate now that's going to ignite a racial debate about when a white person killed a black person. My opinion on it is he didn't need to be choked for 15 minutes. The guy's on. If somebody's threatening somebody, you neutralize the threat. You don't kill the guy. He was
Right.
neutralized. The
It's
guy
hard to
held the choke on him for 15 minutes. You don't do that. So yeah, but then again, the right wing talks about stand your ground, and he's a hero. This guy,
it goes
and
into the
I
political
don't know if they're going
trenches.
to.
Yeah, people and now people exploit it for political capital. I mean, who knows? But yeah, it's
Of course.
so I
Yeah,
interrupted you.
both
Yeah, yeah,
sides do it. Yeah,
yeah.
no, but both sides do it. You'll see
Was he
Sharpton.
wrong then? So you think he did? For whatever reason, he should have let him go. It was obvious the guy was no longer a threat.
Yeah, I mean, if the guy was unconscious for 15 minutes, I don't know what the law is. You got to look at the law. But like with the bodega owner last year, where that bodega owner took a knife and stabbed the guy that was attacking, his back was against the wall. The guy in Bragg charged him, and then he had to drop the charges because it was just politically bad for himself. I think this is a different case, but this is the Republicans, the right wing, they get very, very knee jerk and very, very almost irrational when it comes to self defense. Self defense is okay. You hit me, I hit you. Not you hit me, I strangle you for 15 minutes and you're dead. That's not self
Yeah.
defense. You know,
No,
so so I want to see what happens. I want to see if this. I hope it doesn't. I hope. But the last thing we need now during the summertime is more, riots and racial strife over this. But it gets politicized, and I hope it doesn't ignite into a huge
I don't
fire
think
again.
this one will. But even though, yeah, I don't know why he held him. I wasn't there. I don't know how. Did he felt danger? I
Yeah,
just don't know. Maybe the guy didn't pay attention. He didn't. The guy was out of it though. The person being choked was not really moving and he wasn't breathing that well. But who knows? When you're
yeah.
afraid, who knows? Okay, we got to wrap it up. Again, this has been Wicked Politics. I'll see. I can't wait to download this. Hopefully, I do it right. And this is Adam Bierman. If you want to check this out, and anything else I've done, check out my YouTube channel, Instagram, Facebook, Breezing with Bierman. What about you, Bob?
Yeah, again, Facebook.com/Bob Carson MMA, Instagram.com/Bob Carson MMA. Thank you, Adam. This is a pleasure, and we'll speak to you guys in another few weeks.
Yeah, and I'll give you a call right after this so we can discuss other things. Get wicked, wicked politics.
Okay.